If you're the sort of wargamer who enjoys operational planning, supply pressure, and watching a frontline behave in real time, rather than some click frenzy micro action, Battleplan might be the next problem for your wallet. Because the core idea with this one is simple. You draw the plan on the map, you hit execute, and your officers try their very best to carry it out. When it works, it feels like you're properly sat back in the general's tent. When it doesn't, you're going to learn very quickly that the enemy had no appreciation for all your lovely arrows. Alrighty, my name is Tom, this is LT Gaming. A big thank you in this video to our friends at Slytherin who gave us an early copy of Battleplan to dive into and showcase to you lot. If you do like these hands-on previews, a like is appreciated and it tells YouTube what you like. You can also sub to the channel if you fancy it. Today I'm going to answer 3 things for you. Does the planning actually feel good with the game? Do you have the autonomy you need to feel smart, or a bit dumb maybe? And do all the kind of tertiary systems actually support what you're trying to do, or do they just make it annoying and confusing? The first step here though is in plain English to explain to you guys what Battleplan is, and why Luke and I think the General's Tent idea is pretty fresh and cool for this space. So Battleplan is a World War II operational RTS where you're acting like the HQ, not some deranged sergeant screaming orders. You're micromanaging every firefight. You're shaping a front, you decide what ground matters to your army, and then you try to keep the whole thing moving without your supply collapsing behind you. And this is why Luke and I were instantly drawn to it. A lot of World War II strategy games either go full micro skirmish, or they go to the opposite end of the spectrum, full spreadsheet. And Battleplan is trying something quite unique in the middle, with planning as the main mechanic. You draw your intent directly onto the map, axis of advance, phase lines, supporting attacks, and then your chain of command tries to make this a reality. Now who is going to connect to this game? If you do like games where the pull comes from tempo logistics and having to make smart trade-offs under pressure, this will absolutely be your lane. If you want tight, direct, and the I control every unit every second type of gameplay, this might feel a bit hands-off, because the whole point is that you're going to manage the operation, not drive the tanks yourself. But the real question is, once you hit execute, does it actually feel like you're in command of a war? Or are you watching just your own plan fall apart and you're frustrated by other little things? So let's take a look at the gameplay loop. Now before we even get into the battle side of things, I've got to shout out the army builder, because I've probably spent a slightly unhinged amount of time in there tinkering and tailoring. This was all tweaking compositions, making my force how I like to play, testing out little ideas, and honestly it was a great start. I do love games where I feel like I've got real autonomy in my approach, where the plan can reflect what your brain is thinking rather than just this one correct solution. Then in mission you get your briefing, you clock the ground around you, and you're straight into the planning layer. You sketch the operation. What's my main push? Am I going to create some supporting pressure over here? Where am I going to hold? And you're trying to think ahead. What do I need to secure? And what's going to punish me if I get a bit too over ambitious? Then you hit execute and it all runs in real time with time controls doing a lot of the legwork for you. You pause when you need to think, you speed up the grind side of things, you slow down the moment contact turns into a proper scrap, because you have to shift your mindset a bit because units are trying to carry out your intent rather than waiting for you to micromanage every meter gain. But after a bit of hands-on time, my experience with Battleplan basically went into 2 very clear phases. At the start, I'm going to be honest, I found the lines and drawing a bit awkward. Not because the idea is bad, it's actually the whole point of course, but because you need to learn what the game means when you draw something. My first proper battle was Cherbourg, and it was a textbook case of me getting a bit overexcited. I pushed too hard, overextended, and then got absolutely smashed for it. The sort of punishment where you stare at the map and it feels like you betrayed your units on the screen because you got too greedy. But then the game clicked and I tried the map again. I started drawing breakthrough arrows properly, not as I'm going there, but to use as momentum like it mattered in the attack. And then I combined it with layered defense to actually hold a line, some artillery barrages to soften things at range, and the whole game just opened up into something different. I wasn't suddenly reacting to everything, I was conducting the battle, and before I knew it, I had this lovely moment where you sit back and go, oh, I'm actually starting to feel like a general here. which is always the first step towards doing something stupid again, but still, I had a lot of fun with this. And this is the special sauce with this one. The game is very good at creating the feeling of a real battle, not just the plan, but the chaos and drama around it. The heroic units that hold that you didn't expect, the sudden panic retreats, the bit where one sector is collapsing and then another is somehow overperforming like in some sort of war film. So yeah, it is unique, it's interesting, and when it fires on all cylinders, it creates these really proper, you had to be there moments. So if you're looking at Battleplan and wondering if you can channel your inner Eisenhower, Patton or Montgomery, here are the 3 things that really made the difference for me with this game. First, the breakthrough arrows aren't just movement, they're really commitment. Early on I treated them like, hey, I'm going there, and I got overextended and slapped down. Once I started using them much more deliberately, punching through when I was ready, when the lines were weakened and softened up, keeping the objective narrow, and trying to think about what I was going to do after I broke through the line, momentum suddenly became a resource rather than an accident. Really excellent stuff. Secondly, defense is not passive in this game, it is very structured. And the moment I stopped trying to push everywhere at once and started building a proper layered line, holding ground that mattered, covering my approaches, letting the enemy exhaust themselves on bad attacks, I got a lot more control over the flow of the battle, and it was immense. And thirdly, fire support and how you shape the fight before you even touch it and go in. Barraging from a distance, softening them from the air, using force movement, and then suddenly your pushes don't run headlong into a wall, you create the openings and exploit them. And this is all the reasons why this game feels so good, because it's not just little micro tricks to win, it is proper operational thinking, and you can see it in the knock-on effects. A stalled supply route, a flank that holds just long enough, a breakthrough that actually turns into a full-blown collapse for the enemy. Now, I've been very positive so far, so let's look at the other side of the fence. Right, so I've clearly had a good time with the game, there's no arguing that. But in the spirit of being useful and balanced, there are a couple of areas where I do think it needs tightening up. And the big one for me is learning clarity. The first hurdle with this game isn't, is this fun? But it's, do I understand what the game wants of me when I'm drawing all these lines? Once that clicks and you understand what the lines mean, it's brilliant. But I do think the game could get you there a bit faster and quicker with a better and more robust tutorial, so you actually have some sort of idea what the hell is going on. Second is information hierarchy in the heat of battle. When things got messy, I was overwhelmed with notifications, and maybe that simulates a real battle, but the game needs to surface the most important ones for me to have success or failure, without me having to go hunting around and click back through them. So basically tell me what is urgent, what is merely annoying, and what is an unfolding disaster I need to pay attention to. And third is the UI and how it pertains to your autonomy. I like that units have initiative, that is the whole appeal, but I would like a bit more information when the AI is deviating from my outlined orders, and the game needs to help me understand the logic quickly. Now, none of this killed the experience for me, but I do think it will limit how wide the appeal of this game is if they don't fix everything and make it a bit more polished. So here's where I land after getting hands-on with Battleplan. It is different in a very good way. Once you get over the initial learning bump, it does a cracking job of making you feel like you're running an operation, not micromanaging a fight. And it is genuinely good at producing those proper battle moments, the chaos, the drama, the heroic holds, and the occasional panic retreat that ruins your nice clean plan. If you're the type of player who enjoys planning, momentum, supply, and adapting under pressure, I think this is absolutely worth a wishlist right now. If you want tight, direct control of every unit and you hate the idea of autonomy, doing anything without your permission, then you might want to keep an eye on it and see how the kind of clarity and feedback evolve on this one. And I'm very curious where you lot land on this after my showcase. Do you prefer games where you're issuing intent and letting the chain of command work, or do you want full control where every disaster is entirely your own fault? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read them all, and let us know what other war games are on your horizon and we can take a look at them. Alright guys, see you on the next one. Bye bye.